Are we filming? Yes, we are. Okay, so thank you. Welcome. Thank you for joining me again. And first of all, I just want to share with you what I've been doing over the last few days, what binders I've been using, etc. So the first one, let me get this one out of the way so that I can put it away, because I have been using my Fallax Lyndhurst A4. It's a bit of a monster. I've had this for around about 20 years. Haven't used it every day over the last few years, but certainly before I retired, I was using it every day, and it stood up really, really well. There's quite a lot of wear, as you can see on the corners, but I won't show you inside because there's lots of stuff in there. But crucially, despite a huge amount of use, no cracking at all. And you know I have a particular issue with the leather cracking on binders at the moment. But let me put that up there, out the way. And I'm just going to turn my egg timer round so that you can keep an eye on me and make sure that I don't exceed the timing. Hopefully this will not be anywhere near an hour, but we'll see. Because I've said that before, haven't I? And then it ended up an hour and a half or 2 hours. What other binders have I been using? Well, Guildford Mini Extra Slim. You know that this is one of my favourites, probably the best binder in my opinion that Fallax have ever made, albeit there are some flaws, but I won't go into them. I have been using this week for basically an inbox, but also I went on a trip to London and I used this for my itinerary, so I could get this out of my jeans, from my front jeans pocket, have a look, put it back. Very, very easy, because there's no strap or pen loop to get in the way to snag on a jeans pocket. Take it out, have a look at it, put it back, no problem. One thing that hasn't been so successful is let me put that down. So this is my Alain Berthaud Atoma book. If I turn it over, it's got it's a discbound notebook, as you can see, and I have been experimenting with this. I haven't actually used it much, just a couple of pages, but I have been finding some teething trouble, because I did have a lot more paper in here, and I found that if you fill it to the max, the problem is the turning over the pages. Now, I believe these are aluminium, and they're quite sharp. I am tempted to replace these with Atoma plastic ones to see if the pages, I mean, you can see that the pages turn over okay, but it's like there is I have experienced some damage if you overstuff it, or not even overstuff it, because it came with I believe 60 sheets, or 60 or 70 sheets, and that's too many. So I'm thinning it down. I will be using this from time to time, because I'm using different binders all the time, because that's what this channel's about, and it's intrinsic in myself that I want to constantly chop and change and try different things. So it's no great shakes to do that, because that's what I do already in my normal life, and I want to share that with you. So I'm having teething trouble with this binder, but more about this felt later on, because I've had a comment from a subscriber about this felt, and whether they like it or not, all will be revealed. So let me just put that away. I've used this quite a lot. This is a Reticee 90 by 140 notebook, very, very similar to Moleskines. In fact, it's more or less the same size. I like this one because it's got the pen loop at the back. I'm not a fan of pen loops, but do you know what? In this application, pen loop on the spine rather than the front actually works very, very well. Very well. Just having a pen there, I don't have to fiddle about with the pen. It stays there, and I normally use this. But I quite like carrying a Pilot V7 because they're different, but I like them. I've been using these V7s for 30 years, at least 30 years. And they're nice. So this is a nice thing, and I've been using this for all sorts of things. I will probably talk about this in the future, but I'm using this for stuff that I want to hang on to on the basis that it's going to survive. You know, this will probably be around in 100 years' time. So it's not a journal, but when I make notes and memos that maybe I want to keep, then it goes in here, and then when I've used it up, then I will chuck it in my World War II travelling chest and try like a trunk. What do you call an iron trunk in the US? Let me know in the comments, because I'm not sure what you would call it. But I've been using that quite a lot. And finally, something you haven't seen, but I've been trialing it, is this. This is a homemade Atoma discbound notebook. Atoma rings. This is actually cut down from an A5 Atoma workbook. So it's a Belgian notebook that is typically found in Belgian schools, apparently. And I've just cut this down. It's got gridded paper, which I quite like. And I'm actually using it at the moment. I mean, I'm going to do a full review of this because I'm beginning to like this. I mean, I'm trying several different diaries at once, as regular viewers will know. But I've only started using this in the last week or so, and I'm using it as a diary. Where and this is prompted by something that someone asked on social media. Hold on a minute. Sorry, I don't mean to be hold on a minute, but forgive me. So this started with a comment on social media, a question, and the questioner asked, if you have an appointment in a diary, do you put it in the diary on the day of the appointment, or do you put it maybe 1 or 2 or 3 days before the appointment so that you can be alerted to the appointment 1 or 2 or 3 days before? In fact, from a digital perspective, Apple's calendar app, which I use as well, that allows you to set countdown alarms, 1 day to go, 2 days to go, etc. So it's obviously a feature that other people use, otherwise Apple wouldn't include it. So I guess you're wondering, what do I do? Do I mark the appointments in a diary and then every day meticulously scan forwards to double check manually whether there's anything coming up, or do I put them in here, put countdown markers in a paper-based diary? Well, I'm going to be doing a whole video about the philosophy of diaries soon, and it might feature this one and others as well. But what I can say in this podcast is that I am beginning to like this a lot. It's a custom size. It's 80 by 140, not 90 by 140. Let me just show you this. So if we ignore the pen, let's take away the pen. So even if you include the rings, it's actually more or less the same size. And I've done that deliberately so that this is so pedantic, but it's the way I think. If I have this and this in a pocket, when you take it out the pocket, because this is slightly wider, this one here, this moleskin, this fake moleskin, That's not fair. The Retici notebook that's equivalent to a Moleskine, because this is slightly wider, it means that I can take these out of a pocket without the rings being an encumbrance to taking things out. So this has ended up, instead of 90 by 140, it's 80 140, and I like the fact that you can fold it over like that. But more about this in another video, but I just wanted to share with you the fact that I've been using this, and I really I really like it. I like filofaxes as well, but for other purposes, but I'm beginning to like this a lot. So that's what I'm using this week. First of all, I'm going to jot down the timings now, because it saves me going back. So it's 10. I'm just going to jot this down. 10:52. We're in 10 minutes. I haven't really started yet. We're still okay with the time. Okay. This is a comment from a viewer. In fact, this week there are all comments from viewers, because there are some really interesting ones. Okay, so this viewer says the Bloomsbury model. The Bloomsbury model is still features in the 1992 catalogue. So this is a correction, because I made a mistake in my Bloomsbury. I did a review recently on the Fallax Bloomsbury, and I went a bundle on it because it is, and I'll show you it. It's here, albeit let me just close it. Right, so this is the Bloomsbury Fallax Bloomsbury model, and for me it's one of the, possibly the nicest in terms of the finish and the construction and the workmanship and the materials, etc. It's arguably the nicest one I own. I don't have any of the exotics like lizard skin or reindeer skin from a shipwreck 200 years ago, or anything fancy like this, but this takes some beating in my real world experience. And I said that I was basing this on the 1985 Faximile catalogue, and the next catalogue on, and then I looked at the 1991 catalogue, and this had evidently been deleted, or I mean, I just assumed that it was deleted, but it pops up again in the 1992 catalogue. So this very knowledgeable reader has kindly pointed that out, and I'm very grateful for that. So it just goes to show that if you can't find it in a catalogue, don't assume that it's not going to be, don't assume that it's permanently deleted. It might just be temporarily deleted. Who knows? But it's an interesting, it's a learning exercise, and it's a good lesson to learn, that you have to be more diligent if you can with the information that you have available to hand. Next, I'm going to put it 13:45. There's a method in the madness where I'm jotting things down, because to be honest, it keeps me focused, and I am trying to be focused. He says, while having a coffee. I mean, it's an informal thing, but I'm trying to be more efficient with my time. And the reason why I'm jotting them down is because, and this let me digress. So you'll laugh at this. So basically, my podcasts tend to be an hour. I think the longest one was over 2 hours. And so I've started, as you know, I put the chapters in because I know that people will not necessarily want to watch 1 hour or 2 hours non-stop. They may want to revisit it or whatever. So I put the chapters in, and in order to get the chapters right, I have been from my own experience of navigation of chapters, I have determined that the best way to do this is to set the chapter maybe 5 seconds before you start talking about something, so that there's a lead in, and so you don't think, oh well, I better press the back button and just move back again. So I've been trying to be as, you know, forward thinking as that, but it does mean that I've been recording it, so an hour to 2 hours, and then I have to watch it, and there's nothing wrong with watching it, but it's very, very time consuming, and the hour or two I would spend watching my own video, I would rather spend recording another one so that I have more content for you, or at least an hour or two more research doing my next video. So so what I'm doing is I am writing down the timing, so I can see the timing on the screen, and I'm writing them down so that I can just disappear and blow my nose. Excuse me. I'm basically just jotting the timings down as I go, and I'm just letting you know so that you don't think, well, what's Neil doing? He's busy writing and he should be doing a podcast. So that's what I'm doing. Okay, so this viewer says, because we were talking about plotters, what is a plotter? What is a plotter, specifically a Plotter Mini 5? Well, a Plotter Mini 5, to which this comment refers, is same format as my Guildford Mini Extra Slim. This is the smallest format that Fallax have ever used, and they didn't use it for more than about a year. And it's tiny. It's much, much tinier than a pocket size. Have I got a pocket? Have I got a pocket one here? I have, but I don't know where it is. Oh, it's downstairs, because I don't have many. I don't really use the pocket size. This is considerably smaller than the pocket size, and it works very, very well with A7 paper. So that is a piece of A4 paper folded 3 ways, and that is exactly what you get, and I'll show you that. So if I just open this, and there we go, a sheet of A4. So that is genuinely A7 size, and so it is a fabulous, so long as you don't need tabs, this is a fabulous, absolutely fabulous. It just sticks out slightly, but I'm not fussy, so that works very, very well. But the plotter, let me go back to the plotter. So the plotter is a Japanese company that make very, very high-end binders, and they make them in A7. They make it in A6. So this is a 5-ring. They're compatible with, they're interchangeable, the paper standards and ring sizes with Fallax. So you get the 5-ring mini, the 6-ring pocket size, and the personal size, and then they make the A5 size. So they make all 4 sizes. They don't make an A4, I believe, but they make the 4 standard sizes, if you like, that are equivalent to Fallax and many other brands. They all have the same format, really. So imagine a single piece of leather like this. I wish I don't really want to show a picture, because I might fall foul on copyright laws, but just look up Plotter Mini 5, and that's a lot easier than risking my channel. So it's a single piece of leather. There are no pockets. It's just a single piece of leather with a quality 5-ring mechanism. And the quality is, and I don't want to criticise this, because this is a brilliant form factor, and at least the outer leather is really, really nice. Not so much the inside. I'm not really fussed about flaky leather, but the problem I've got is that if you're, I mean, I don't really go to a restaurant, but if you have a clean tablecloth and you're using this, and you look at the tablecloth when you've got up, there are bits of leather all over the tablecloth because it just cracks and cracks and cracks, and tiny little pieces are falling off, and that's not good. So that is the, well, apart from the rings, okay, so the rings as well. So the two big problems are flaky leather, it's a bit nasty, and the rings are, you've got to be really, really careful, because I found out with my Portlands, if you keep, there's only so many times you can solve the problem, close the problem and adjust to solve these continuous ring gap problems, and they could collapse. And then I'd found out by accident that they're not even welded in. The mechanism, these pieces in the mechanism, I mean, I don't really want to bang on about this too much, because it is what it is, but there's just an interference fit rather than spot welded in, and so it's a bit of an Achilles heel. So I am, so it's obviously a concern for me. And in fact, I'm not using this so much now because I have lost confidence in the binder. Even though it's a fabulous design, the quality of the materials let it down to the extent that effectively this has been replaced by this. And let me just digress a minute and show you the reason why. Say this is in my back pocket. I mean, I don't have it in my back pocket. I'll have it in my front pocket. But look, it's indestructible. Absolutely indestructible. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Oh, just maybe you'll have to replace a card cover or something. It's not a problem. But this is indestructible. This, lovely as it is, very, very fragile. So I'm looking at the Plotter Mini 5 because it's the same as this, and I don't use the pockets. As you can see, I've taken the pockets out, the card slots are taken out. I don't really use the pockets at all, because personally I find that I'm a bit reluctant to use this as a wallet in case I'm involved in a robbery and then I have to hand over not just my cards but also my filofaxes as well. I don't want to do that. So I don't use the pockets. So I have been thinking about the Plotter 5, and it's on my acquisitions list. But they're really, really hard to get hold of at the right price. Well, they're just hard to get hold of in the UK. You're lucky. In America, you have your own distributor. If you're in Japan, that's fantastic. And it is a piece of leather that is just beyond the high levels of quality. I mean, it's just superb, absolutely superb. Perfect flatability. This viewer says, I have a Plotter Mini 5 and it meets all the flatability requirements. Well, that is good enough for me. It's certainly on my acquisitions list. How are we doing? 23. So next question, or next comment. Prior to 1980, the holes in the leaves were smaller. That would stop the snagging issue. So a knowledgeable commenter I was talking about the rings, my ring mechanism. So I have gone from a hand 3mm punch for mini size and other sizes to a 5.5. Because I have an adjustable punch that punches 5.5, and this commenter says, who's a bit of an expert actually, far more knowledgeable than me, and what this gentleman says is that the holes in the leaves were smaller, and I've double checked this because I have, whenever I buy a vintage binder, quite often there's some inserts in there, and the the holes are indeed a lot smaller. I haven't actually measured them, but they're smaller. And he goes on to say closer fitting holes do cause more friction when you use bigger rings. So imagine if you had a Norfolk with 35mm rings, and you were using small holes, like a hole punch with small holes. This gentleman suggests that you might have more problems with that, and I'm inclined to agree. I actually did know someone with a degree in paper technology, paper manufacturing technology, but they're no longer with us, sadly, so I'm not able to. I should have asked him. Oh, that sounds awful. No, I shouldn't have asked him. I'm sure he had other things on his mind. But I didn't even know you could get a degree in paper manufacturing technology. But there we go. But the biggest problem, as we know, with having rings that are this size, 5.5mm, is they waggle. So here we go, 5.5mm, tiny little rings, and there's an awful lot of waggle. Now that might be okay for some people, it might not be okay for others, but it is what it is. It is what it is. 26 minutes. Just bear with me a second. 26:30. Okay, so one of my channel members. Let me just carry on with my coffee. I wouldn't do that with a normal video, but it is a bit informal. One of my channel members says, and I didn't know that. We had a discussion about Fallax Winchesters, and in particular Winchester facsimile models that were issued by Fallax, made in India apparently, not the UK, made in India, to the exact specification of the original Winchesters of old that were made in the UK before manufacturing closed down here, and labour was moved to to take advantage of cheaper labour rates in other countries. And there were, as I'm aware, I have been aware for some time that there are these, Winchester facsimile models, very, very high quality, floating around. I've seen 2 or 3 of them surfacing on eBay Japan. I have been very, very tempted actually, but I've decided they're a little bit too expensive for me. But one of my channel members informs me that they're still available in Japan, and I'm assuming that means, I haven't asked her, but I assume that means that they are still for sale retail, not on the second-hand market. And I was chatting to her about using a shipping agent, and I have no experience of shipping agents, but as luck would have it, a guy in Australia was saying that he's recently purchased a Plotter Mini 5 using a shipping agent. So this is an appeal. This is an appeal to help me out and help others that are interested in shipping agents, especially for filofaxes, because as we know, not every filofax model is available in every jurisdiction, and there may be other binders like the Plotter Mini 5, which I'm interested in, which is available in America. It is available in Japan, and I would like to buy one. In fact, I even reached out to Plotter themselves, saying, I live in the UK, how can I get hold of a mini Plotter 5? Alas, I hate to say it, but over the last several weeks, I haven't heard from them. So I guess they're extremely busy making Plotter Mini 5s, and they've not been. Maybe my message is still stuck in the ether somewhere, But this thing about shipping agents, I mean, I would like to know more, and I'm sure other people would. So if you're listening to this and you have any experience of shipping agents, then let me know in the comments, and I will share that information in a future podcast, maybe even a future video, but we'll see. 30:52. We're doing okay. Yep, it looks good. The egg timer looks good. So another channel member says, and we're talking about my recent video about the Fallax Bloomsbury. So this one here. She says, I can't get over the quality of these old models, plus the uniqueness of this one in particular. And then she goes on to say that they're going to watch the video again. I mean, that's fantastic. It is. I'll tell you what, if you could only smell this and feel this and look at the quality close up, I think most people will be very, very impressed. But watching the video again, go for it. Thank you very much. It is a very, very nice thing. One thing I would say about this, let me think about how I've got to be careful about how I word this. There's quality and quality. And what is quality? I mean, here I have a Fallax Domino. Why have I bought this? I bought this to specifically, it's one of the very few relatively modern binders I've bought. I just bought it for a few pounds. Just to have in my collection, even though I don't use this, the flatability is, well, let me show you. And this isn't a criticism, because I'm actually going to give this a glowing report. The flatability is not too bad, but it's not absolutely perfect. This has never been used. When was it made? Well, it's come with an 0708 binder. But just imagine you're a student on a limited budget and you buy this. I think this is perfectly good, It's perfectly good, and if you're, this has appeal to vegans, okay, because it's like a man-made material. I don't really like this. It's not been used. Doesn't look like it's ever been used in anger, but yeah, cracking. That's not good. I've only just noticed that, really. So, oh my goodness, no, not so hot. I think I'm going to not talk too much about the quality of this. But the thing is, just from a representative point of view, these things are, it's not necessary to have a really, really posh binder for it to be functional. I'm trying to find, I've got a cheap education Fallax that probably only costs about 50 pence to make. And it's perfectly all right. It's absolutely fine. It's got perfect flatability, and I use it quite a lot in the office downstairs. So we're talking about luxury, and we're talking about feel-good factor. But is it necessary to buy an exotic Fallax? I mean, it's a tricky thing because it's a bit like a good pair of shoes or a watch. My advice is, if it gives you joy and you're using it a lot, then spend the money, because it's going to make whatever you do with your paper-based productivity, it's going to make it feel like it's not a chore. It's not, it's something. If it's something you use every day, spend the money and get the very, very best materials and the best quality of construction than you can afford. That's my bet. If it's something that you're only using as a reference, to store things, then I would say it's just get a cheap plastic one. It's going to be fine. I am in two minds about this, because I've got so many binders, and some of they range from ones that are probably only $2.99 retail through to, I think this one, I did some calculations, and it came out as in today's money this would cost you £415, which is ridiculous. But then again, I was talking to a female friend of mine the other day, and she says £10,000 for a handbag is not unusual, So I'm shocked. I have another friend who has guitars, and he says, if you think anything is expensive in this world, just order a custom guitar, and you're in a whole new world of pain. So it is subjective. It's the definition of quality is very subjective. But this lady says, I can't get over the quality of these models, and in many senses, I agree with her. They're just very, very, very nice. I don't have any modern filofaxes. I certainly haven't bought. The only one I bought a couple of years ago, and it was a Fallax Malden. And I thought, I'm just going to buy it. I'm probably not going to use it, but I'm just going to buy it to see what all the hype was about the Malden. And alas, I wasn't able to find out, because the one I bought turned out to be fake. And so I still haven't got round to it, but I will. But this is a channel mainly about paper-based productivity. So I talk about lots of different filofaxes and other binders that vary from, in terms of quality, if you can put a finger on quality. But there's no denying that this is very nice. The only reason I don't use this on a day-to-day basis is I don't like this flap, because it's a little bit tedious. I just don't like that flap, but it's a nice thing to own. Okay, where are we? 38.20. Well, we're doing well. We're sort of halfway through. I might speed things up, but we'll see. So another channel member says, my biggest regret when going on holiday in London back in 2009 was not having the full filofax bug, so I didn't even think to track down a shop that sold filofaxes. Well, we've seen a few, the demise, not necessarily demise, I wouldn't say that, but we've seen things evolve in terms of the presence of shops on the high street, because of the shift to online. But also there is more of a shift to, because of the introduction of apps on mobile phones, particularly, we've definitely seen, I think, a reduction in the number of people that want to use something. But then again, I think in some ways there's a resurgence, because there's nothing quite like using a notebook, in my opinion. But I may be a statistical outlier. I haven't actually done any research. Maybe I should, about the use of paper with regards to paper-based productivity and getting things done in general. But we have seen. I remember reading on the filofaxes blog a few years ago, a review of a shop called the City Organiser, which was in central London, which closed down. I think they were offered quite a bit of money to vacate their shop. I'm not quite sure of the politics and that, but that was a prominent shop selling a lot of Filofax products, and we've seen small boutique stationery stores like Bureau Direct have to close down. And if you go into my local WX Smiths, 10 years ago, they had a massive stock upstairs of filofaxes, a whole shelf, a whole look, floor to ceiling of maybe about 20 feet long of nothing but filofax products. Well, now it's a fraction of that. We've seen Staples. I know the Staples company still exists. I mean, it's an American company, but we don't have Staples retail stores in the UK. And if you go to John Lewis, the amount of display space for filofaxes it's still there, but it's very, very much reduced. So maybe this is a reflection. This is a reflection of how it is, and certainly in London, even in London, where you would expect the best opportunity for selling potentially high ends binders and notebooks, etc. Well, it's diminishing. We've recently seen the Paper Chase chain of stores go bust, and they were selling a lot of notebooks and binders in there, inserts, that sort of thing. So I'm sure that the market in terms of retail space is shrinking, but I think it may just be moving on. There's a lot of migration online, as we know. I mean, we could talk about that for a very, very long time. I'm not going to, because my knowledge is limited, and I don't want to come across as authoritative about this. I'm just discussing it and churning it over in my mind, and I welcome people's input on this discussion. But it is interesting. It is interesting. I'm referring to the Filofaxi website, where occasionally they have meetups, and there was a meetup recently in London, and part of that whole meetup thing is they go to a store and have a look at some Filofaxes. I can't remember which one they went to, but I got the impression from reading the article that it's not so easy to do that now. So we'll see what happens. But so this channel member went back in 2019, and she didn't have the Filofax bug then. But one good thing, in my opinion, is that, and I think where there is a resurgence of Filofaxes, is the vintage online market. And I was talking about this with a colleague yesterday, because I was in London actually making a film for this channel, amongst other things, and we were talking about how And I'm sure it's just not me, but the more we talk about things, particularly certain binders, I've noticed since I did this Bloomsbury review, someone as we speak. I mean, it may have been sold by the time you read this, or watch this, but as I'm recording this on the 9th of October 2023, one of these has appeared at a very, very high price on eBay, and I have noticed that when I give glowing reports to certain vintage binders, they kind of creep up a bit in price, and so there is a buoyant market there. My colleague and I were talking about how there's a guy that talks about vintage lenses, vintage camera lenses, and when he talks about a particular camera lens that he really rates as a secret bargain, where the quality is good but the price is cheap, the next minute the price of that lens shoots up, and we had a bit of a laugh about that because perhaps that is what's happening when people are watching some of these videos, because there's not many of us talking about vintage binders in particular, but I am, and I think there must be some element of influence there on the second-hand market. But I just want to digress about that, because there will be some people that say, oh, it should remain a secret, because if you talk about something, then the price will go up, whether that be vintage cars or vintage camera lenses or vintage filofaxes. It's not fair because it's distorting the market. But I don't think I personally disagree with that, because if someone sees a vintage filofax going for a surprising amount of money, there will be people out there who see that and think, oh my goodness, I think I've got one of those in a drawer somewhere. Let's put it on eBay and just realise some money, which they might otherwise have just thrown away, perhaps, as potentially being perceived as not having any intrinsic value at all. So high prices for desirable binders, where they become more in the public eye, encourages more of those binders to resurface somewhere out of someone's drawer or a loft or an old, so I think that has a balancing effect on prices, in terms of desirability on one hand, and then you've got availability on the other, and so there is an element of that. So that's a bit of a long-winded 10-minute talk about regret when purchasing. I would say don't regret it. It will be available online, and we can all be pleased about that, hopefully. 40. I've got to speed up. Okay, how do I set up my monthly calendar? The gentleman concerned was commenting on a video that showed my custom 16-page diary, excuse me, in my other Guildford Mini Extra Slim. Is it here? Yes, it is. So this is my Guildford Mini Extra Slim. I've got a really used one, and I've got this more or less almost brand new one. At least that's when I bought it. But as the cracking has slowed down because I'm not really using it every day. I don't keep it in my pocket anymore because I'm worried about what might happen to. I mean, these are really expensive to buy, and they're fantastic. But what I've decided to do is not necessarily keep one of these in my pocket and use it extensively as a diary. Because I'm just worried about the potential for the failure of the ring mechanism. And so that's one of the reasons why I've started using this, because it's indestructible in a pocket. But in answer to the gentleman's question, I will be doing a video at some point about the setup of my 16-page 12-month rolling diary, because I think it's interesting, and if other people think it's interesting, then I will do a video. In fact, just talking about video requests, if you're a channel member, I may well make you a video on request, but you have to be a channel member to do that. But I will actually, I'm going to do one. It's a good idea. It's a good idea to do a video on this. So I'm going to do one anyway. So watch this space. But there we go. 5104. We're kind of getting through it. I've got about 5 or 6 things to go. Another channel member. Podcast about stationery stores, maybe, question mark. I'm not going to do a podcast. I'm probably going to do a video, but this is a really good suggestion of my channel member, because stores come and go, ranges rise and fall, and specifically there are a lot of people out there asking about the availability of inserts. The cost, or my bugbear is not that I use inserts myself, diary inserts. I prefer to just use a plain sheet and just literally I prefer to do this. There we go, diary sorted, and I can change it if I want, you know. That is either a day to a page, or it could be 2 days to a page, or 2 pages per day. I can make it exactly what I want. But I do appreciate the whole diary insert thing is a very interesting subject. So I'm probably going to do more of this about the retail side of stationery and binders, and I might do some videos, or I might insert, excuse the pun, I might insert some commentary in a podcast from time to time. But it is very, very much uppermost in my mind that people are interested in this sort of thing. So a bit of a mixture, but I may well do a video or two, or indeed include things in a podcast as well. 5318. We're cooking on gas, as they say in the UK. Okay. Now, this is an interesting thing. One of my most popular videos, I mean, it is, I think, in the top 10. One of the top 10 videos is I soaked my filofaxes in Nivea for a year, and that's exactly what I did. And it seemed to work very, very well with the purpose of putting this vintage binder in a plastic bag with some vinegar for a year was to see. It was a long-term experiment to see whether it improved the flatability, the suppleness of the leather, and it did. A bit messy though. And to be honest, I can still see, even though I've cleaned it, embedded in the grain everywhere are just these fine white lines of the Nivea. So I need to, I've not done anything else, but I need to properly clean it with some saddle soap and a stiff brush. But this person says, goodness, I would not be putting Nivea on leather. You need to get a tub of Renapur leather balsam. I've rubbed this onto a Lockwood slimline, Filofax Lockwood slimline, and it now folds flat. Well, that's fantastic. I do have some Renapur leather balsam, and I have used it occasionally. Not recently. The reason being is because when I review binders, what I'm trying to do is review them as you might buy them yourself, rather than me doing all the manipulation and the treating it to, say, this Renapur leather balsam and turn it into an getting the leather to such an extent that it is entirely improved compared to how I purchased it, how I acquired it. So I because I'm in the process of reviewing things, I'm not really going overboard with the improving the leather until I have reviewed it, and I've got a lot of binders that I haven't reviewed for various reasons. But yeah, I would agree that this Renapur leather balsam is a good thing. But what surprised me was just how how much of an improvement this gentleman found. I think it was a gentleman. How much of improvement there was by just treating his Fallax Lockwood slimline once he's done it. And he says, and it now folds flat. So I mean, that's fantastic for me. But I do want to talk about this in the future. This whole thing about sharing ideas about, in particular for me. I mean, if you treat some leather, there are different types. There's full grain leather. There's this sort of leather, which is just a thin layer of leather attached to like some sort of man-made substrate underneath. Where the recommendation from Filofax is to just use a dry cloth or a slightly damp cloth. It depends on the model. They definitely don't say soak it in Nivea, and it probably wouldn't work for this because it's not full grain leather. It's just surface leather. Some people call it pleather, and I think that's disingenuous, because this is actually, it feels good, but nevertheless, the construction is largely man-made with a final surface material of leather that's stuck in some way, attached to the largely man-made binder. So I'm not sure whether treating the leather for something like this would work, but I'm not a leather expert, but I would like to become one in the future. So again, that is an appeal for readers' experiences about treating leather. It's a subject that I'm going to visit from time to time, without a doubt. Like a lot of these subjects, it's probably best, in my opinion, it's best to make a video on one subject if I can, and then we can discuss that, and the discussion can continue in a podcast, a future podcast episode. So that is the idea, and I'm certainly interested in viewers' experiences about treating leather of their binders. 5904. So we're nearly there. Actually, we're nearly there. So we're gonna okay, we're already we're not. We're nearly out, but we're not too far behind. So this material, this is my newly acquired Alan Berthaud It's a discbound binder, as you now know, and it's made of this felt material. And I did a complete video about this, and my feelings were that, in my opinion, this is very tactile. It's really nice. I had reservations about how this material would get dirty really quickly, because there's, under a microscope you'd see all sorts of stuff in this felt, wouldn't you? And I am minded, that's a nice word, I am minded, like an English judge, to put this in the washing machine from time to time, take out the discs and the paper, and just wash it maybe once a month, something like that, just to keep it fresh. But this commenter that says this, the grey felt material is not tactile, with an exclamation mark. Now, I was talking about, I find this very tactile. She says, I hope you didn't mind me saying that. No, I didn't mind you saying that at all, because this is the whole point of debate. I mean, this is a public debate. Anyone can see this. You don't have to be a channel member. You don't have to be a subscriber. Anyone can make a comment on this or any other video. So we differ in our tastes and opinions. In this case, I think this is quite nice. It's a little bit stiffer than I thought. I mean, I didn't know. I thought this would be a little bit softer, and I'm wondering whether it will become softer over time. So, but I quite like the format and the design, and not specifically because it's a designer that designed it. I just quite like it. But it is an acquired taste. It's what they say in the UK as a Marmite. It's a Marmite binder. Marmite is a yeast extract that some people like, especially on toast. I like it on toast, but I also like it just like Bovril. You know, you can dissolve a teaspoonful of it in a drink, and it's quite nice. But other people go, I can't stand the sight of it. I can't stand the taste of it. So we're all individuals here. But no, there is no. I don't mind at all. I do not mind what people say or if they disagree with me, because it just promotes debate, and crucially it gives people more of an oversight into whether a particular binder, in this case, is for them. If 20 people said, I don't like this, it might be the case that they're right and I'm wrong, or whatever. But certainly I quite like it, other than the fact that I'm having trouble with the having trouble with the rings. It's strange, because these rings are Atoma aluminium, and these are Atoma plastic, and you can turn the pages on this super smooth, but on here not so much. And this paper is Atoma paper, pre-punched, so it's not like I've made a mistake with punching myself. Atoma rings, Atoma paper, Atoma rings, Atoma paper, and they are identical in size, and yet this is slightly harder to turn than this. And I just wonder whether it's the actual the ring mechanism itself. Difficult to know, but I'm not quite so happy about that. But I bought this, A, because I quite like the look of it, and B, because I am a reviewer of binders, so I feel it incumbent on me to do reviews. 104, 104.05. Right. So, what's coming up? I have a video that I was down in London because I wanted to go to the Victoria and Albert Museum. There's a photography exhibition there. Didn't actually get round to doing that, but we did other things as well. met up with a few people, and it was just nice to I mean, I don't live too far away from London, so I go to London quite a lot. That's my sort of hometown, if you like, my home city. My family have been in London since the 16th century. But, and when I say that, I don't, it's a tricky thing. Let me just digress, because if you go back to the 16th century, almost all of us are related to each other. You know, we got 2 grandparents and 4 great-grandparents, and etc., etc. And by the time you get to the 16th century, that is extrapolated to at least 500,000 people. So we're by the time you get back to 500,000 people, we're either directly related or indirectly related through cousins or second cousins, and that covers roughly what the population would be in the 16th century, i.e. in the UK, about 8 million. So it's not like all my relatives, all 500,000 of direct ascendants of mine lived in London at a time, but I do have a traceable line back to, I have one traceable line that goes back to Devon, and another traceable line that goes back directly to London. So I have an affinity with London. So let me pull it back to what I was talking about. So what is coming up is I've called it paper-based productivity in the 21st century. A little bit esoteric there, but it's an unusual video. I quite actually enjoyed just wandering around London and talking about stuff. So if you like it, then let me know. If you hate it, let me know. And then on the basis of like the free vote, if you like, I will then take steps to either not repeat it or repeat it, but we'll see. Obviously other things are coming up too, but the main thing is I've been editing today, just before this video, actually, just before recording this. I spent the morning editing this video that I took in London. Anyway, I better just put down my final one, 0107. So we did all right, actually. 0107 15. Okay, so I mean, this is just the last thing is to and it's the most important thing, I think, is to thank you all for watching. If you've got this far, if obviously you've liked it, then let me know by leaving a like. And this particular episode, I really want you to comment if you have the time and you feel that you'd like to get in contact with me and comment and share your opinion with me, because although I can't reply, I've now got to the stage, I do apologise, I just can't respond to every single comment. I'm trying to make sure that at least I read them. We might get to the point where I don't have time to read all of them either, but hopefully that'll be some way in the future. But I was, for instance, coming back on the train, I was reading your comments. Going down there, I was reading your comments. While my friend was getting ordering his lunch, I was reading your comments. So I mean, that's because we live in a digital world. We can check these comments on a phone, and I really do. I do enjoy reading your comments, so thank you very, very much. And you might even get a response. I do prioritise channel members, as you can probably imagine, but that doesn't mean that you won't get a reply from me, because I try and read everybody's. So thanks very much for subscribing or liking or sharing. A lot of people are sharing stuff, which I'm very, very grateful. Or if you want more, then consider joining as a channel member, and you'll read about that, about the benefits of being a channel member, I'm sure. I won't need to explain it. So thanks very much for watching, And until my next video or podcast, as the case may be, goodbye.